Chainsaw Ranger. That he married a white woman, right? And the white woman's brother married his sister. What else did you notice? Some of your first things that you notice while watching this.
It was interesting that their like housing situation as well as what they do with cattle. I think it's exactly like what the settlers did.
Yeah. Right. There was a lot of assimilation that happened, right? There's a lot of assimilation, and a lot of that assimilation was expected, right? But it still didn't save any of them. It didn't save none of them, right? Like when the new guy came into town and he was like, "Oh, if y'all need anything, you let me know." Bro, you don't see all the desolation around you? What you mean, do I need anything? Yes. Y'all motherfuckers took everything from us. Do I need something? Okay, sir. Xenophobia from the US Army. Absolutely. Yes, that is from bootstraps you don't have. Right? So yeah, there's all this push to try to build a better life, but trying to build a better life around people who don't want you there in the first place, and for damn sure don't want you to have a better life, make things very difficult. And then the systems that get established around that to keep you in that hold, right? Yeah, those are problematic as fuck. And you get to see a lot of that in action in this film. What else did you notice?
I just learned that this was based off a true story.
Yes.
I was reading about his actual life. Very interesting. Very like.
Yeah, right. This was based off of true events, right? And so that doesn't mean that everything that you watch is historically accurate, right? We don't know what exactly everyone's conversations looked like, right? We imagine those for the film based on the context of what we do know. At the end of the film, you get a little bit of insights about where folks ended up afterwards, right? When they ended up passing away, anything that they ended up doing after that, right? But it's not until that point, or if you turn off the films as soon as they end, you wouldn't get that, right? Those things seem intentional to me sometimes, but neither here nor there. So most of the time, if you don't go look it up for yourselves, or it doesn't say it right at the beginning based on true events, you're not going to know that, right? And so it becomes easy for us to imagine it as fantasy. If we imagine it as fantasy, that's not real, right? That's not an accurate depiction of reality. But it is. It surely is. Okay. Have to take, especially when you already have nothing. Right? That haves and the have-nots is so real for so many of our communities for so long. And yet we still have to make those intentional decisions to be active members of our community, to be good members of our community, right? And it pays, right? It pays when that happens. How does that help him later on in the film? Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. They only had the issue with really the one set of white guys when they were trying to move all the cattle, because they made such good relationships with the rest of his community that they were allowed passage. Yes, and he cashed in on that, right? When the other tribe was sent down the Trail of Tears, remember that? When they were being massacred? And he said, "What do you need, brother?" And he said, "We don't have anything," basically, right? And he said, "Well, I just dropped off a couple of cattle over there. You're welcome to them." Right? So he made good on his word with how little he already had, with how much he's trying to build himself back up, with all of the things that have been put in his way. He's still actively being a part of the community and trying to be the best possible person that he can be. That's tough. You ever been in a position like that where you're like, I got nothing, but I know you got nothing less, right? I know you got more of nothing, so I'm going to go ahead and help you out today. It's a really hard spot to be in. And so socially, we don't do much of that anymore because we live in a society that is that feeds off of individualism, right? That feeds off of you looking out for just you, right? And we use that as like the poster child of how we come up. We're like, well, if I did it, you can do it. I'm not saying I'm going to help you do it. I just said I did it, so you can do it, right? Smaller towns, right? Who are more willing to take on folks who have been incarcerated because they just don't have the capacity otherwise. But you can never be an LA fire department person, right? You go over there and you fight these fires, and then we're going to shake your hand, tell you thanks, and send you right back to your cell, right? Same exact concept. That's accurate. You're human as long as you are doing something to help me. Yes. What are y'all thoughts about this so far? He was the exception. And had he lived his life as the exception, he could have easily moved from over there, not been part of the extreme desolation and poverty, right? Especially with a white wife. With a white wife, he could have found somewhere else to go, right? Even if it wasn't in that specific area, because we already know how they feel about this, right? Because the long hair, right, looked at the wife and was like, "You an Indian lover?" Remember that? Yeah, he looked right. "You an Indian lover?" And she goes, "I'm proud to say I am." First of all, that would never fucking happen in real life. So we know that's scripted. Even in the terms minority and majority, right? Those are not numerical equivalents. If we look at what the numbers actually look like, if we were to actually create race categories that were reflective of the people who actually live here, for example, if we were to add a brown category, like activists have been trying to do for the last couple iterations of the census, right? That has been shot down every time. Make sure that y'all are paying attention to that for the next upcoming census, which is 2030, right? Get on board with that if you think that we should have more accurate race descriptions. What are they going to list him as? He's half white, right? What are they listing him as though? That's it. That's it, right? So it keeps the numbers for certain populations much lower by only having a one box check. Yeah. Real interesting shit I've learned. This is why Fred Hampton is one of the leaders of the Black Panther Party. So there was that film that came out like last year or so. What was it called? The Black Panther film that came out. Do you remember what it's called? The Black Messiah. Okay, never mind, I see it. Yeah, The Black Messiah, when that came out. So that film is about Fred Hampton, who was one of the leaders of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. This is why Fred Hampton had to go. He was bringing together the poor whites, Latinos, and Asians. This is what Hoover feared the most, a Black Messiah who could rally and galvanize all minorities against the system of racism, right? So J. Edgar Hoover actually called the Black Panther Party one of the worst thing in America, right? These are the people that we need to fear the most. Wonderful rest of y'all day. Mind your self-care. How are y'all doing? Without using the word good, let me start there. Without using the word good, how are you? You said tired?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yes, I feel that. Okay. How are you? Hungry? Okay. You're more than welcome to eat in my class, by the way. You never have to sit in my space hungry. Take care of yourselves first and foremost. I usually tell folks, the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense did not create the free breakfast program for us to grow up and sit in college classrooms and be hungry all over again and not be able to pay attention, right? So let's continue the trend of taking care of ourselves, make sure that we're eating in college too. If you need any support with that, we have a lot of basic needs things that we can help you with. There's a pantry. We have the CalFresh people on campus. They have the fresh, the farmer's market that comes like once a week. And I usually try to do one of the buy a thing for the students at least once a semester. I try to do that. But also in general, if you are having a massive food insecurity, come talk to me and I can make sure that you get something to eat, okay? Don't suffer in silence. This is a community. Okay, one more. How are you? Without using the word good. That's tough, ain't it? You're so programmed to just say good. And there's so many other words that could actually better describe how we are. Sleep deprived. See? Yeah, that's a real one. You need to take care of yourself and get that sleep though. I'm also currently a little sleep deprived, so I'm talking to myself too. So how are you going to take care of yourself knowing that you are in need of sleep?
But now I too much just to keep myself up.
Okay, that's the opposite of the sleep. So how are you going to get some rest? Let me rephrase it.
Oh man, the minute I get home, I'm going straight to sleep.
Good. There you go. So you have a plan. There's the light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, good. How are you going to maximize on that sleep to make sure that it's restorative sleep? Because you know, sometimes you're so tired and you go to sleep and you wake up and you're so fucking tired. Yeah. So how do we maximize on that to make sure that your sleep is restorative? What do y'all think? What are some things you think you can do?
Just set an alarm for like 3 hours so that I'll sleep.
Sure, right? Because what that'll do is decrease the anxiety of oversleeping for whatever you have to do next. Right? When you find ways to kind of decrease any anxieties that you're feeling before you go to sleep, it helps you to have a more restorative sleep. A lot of therapists will tell you to do things like journal, right? Even if it's like a verbal journal, trying to just get things out so that it's not just clouding your mind, right? Avoidance of some accountability, right? Because why would we want to be accountable to our subjects, essentially, right? And so in a way, it's almost like we are acting as our own monarchy. We have our own monarchical relationship with them, right? And we already know with everywhere in Central and South America, the US does not like any of us, right? They don't like anybody from there. They don't like anything to do with it, right? What was the thing that Trump was calling everybody? Remember that? What was he saying? He was saying the people from Mexico are what? Rapists, criminals, right? Why you want to help them? Right? So logically, it seems like the relationship dynamics, right? Not the actual levels of devastation and need and help, right? Not any of that. Not what the people that we are supposed to be protecting, essentially, right? Other US citizens, not what they need, but a power struggle, right? An assertion of power. While at the same time, we get to make a little hat nod to the other power over there across the large Atlantic pond, right? And say, hey, we're sorry for your loss. But are we really? Who is actually sorry for this loss? I'm not sorry for this loss. This is excellent, right? I mean, we're just getting another one of her, but now when Kim Jong-un dies, whew, because y'all know his sister is fucking worse than him. Oh, yeah. We don't want her in power, okay? So he's odd and dangerous and all of that, but we don't want his sister being able to step in. But that death happens, we better make sure we pay attention to that one. Oh man. All right, anyone else would like to go ahead?
So there's a call to action today for the here.
Okay.
So they were promised a space, like a research center, research center in Pakistan, but they said that it was their operating with them. So that's why they're having calls to action today.
Okay.
But yeah, so they're gonna do that.
10:30 to 12.
Yeah.
Where?
Um,
Can you just post the flyer on Band actually, right? But they try to cover it up, right? We call it different things over the years so that it looks and sounds different, so that we don't, have a straight breadcrumb path to follow to figure out what's going on, right? Or it makes it seem like it's lesser than, or like it's less impactful, but it's really not, right? Yeah, so we have a historical problem of trying to create the narratives that we want to perpetuate and not necessarily truthful ones. Okay, good. Who else wants to add to this? Uh-huh.
I mean, we're speaking with people too, like in the documentary with the Chelsea.
Chelsea?
With that one lady saying, like, oh, we're past that now. Why don't we just move on, let it go?
Yeah, right. The group of white women that were sitting together and saying we don't have a race problem, basically, right? They're like, what? White supremacy? I've never gotten anything from being white. Meanwhile, we're looking around at your house and looking around at your clothing. I mean, appearances would suggest otherwise.
Those fancy ass cheeses they had on the table.
You know, I can't even name none of them. Right? Growing up, let's take something really simple, right? Growing up, what did you think about wine? Did you think that wine was something that you had access to or that you would enjoy?
I thought wine was really expensive.
You thought it was really, really expensive, right? Okay, what else did you think about wine?
Sophisticated.
Yeah, that it's very sophisticated, right? It's a drink for the grown. Okay, what else? Yeah, right. Anytime somebody had wine at a party, you're like, oh, this is something over here, right? You start to feel underdressed. Yeah. Right. It's very difficult for people to heal in the same environment that they're sick in. So it was a last ditch effort to try to save something that should have never been in the first place. Right. But I got a lot of that, right? My friend circle changed drastically, right? Because people did have a lot of those notions. Like, well, what are we going to do now, right? Now we have nothing in common. That was all we had in common? That was it? Well, okay then, I'm okay, right? I had people like doing a lot of pressure at the bars and things, right? Because I would still go and hang out at different spaces because that's what I was used to. And then you realize how much of our society actually circles around alcohol. It is very difficult to find something to do that does not have a bar associated with it. Everything that we do, right? You go to brunch, what do you expect at brunch? I expect food, okay? Y'all see the difference? Exactly what the white folks were scared of. Spilled oil, right? And so Native folks were actually out there protesting in like camps. They were camping out to protest, right? There was like this whole massive thing for social media. We were all checking in over there so that they couldn't actually track who was over there to help the Native folks not be ID'd so quickly, so they could actually engage in that protest. So I would like do the check-in every day for being over there. But yeah, so that's one of the ways that we continue to assert that power and control. We just ignore our own treaties because we really don't care about them, right? We protect the white folks who say that they don't want anything in their land to move it over, and then we do it, right? With no regard for any of the environmental consequences of that, with the social consequences of that, especially for people who are constantly impoverished, right? These are largely poor folks. So you're going to devastate poor folks who don't have the infrastructure because you literally destroyed it on your way in, right? You destroyed their infrastructure on the way in. How are they going to recover? Then the story goes silent.
Look at the African.
But we're getting bonuses, right? But we get housing allowances and parking allowances. That's an abuse of power, especially in a system that was originally designed to be free for all of you to be sitting in here. Do you know that was in the original CSU development plan? They were supposed to be free. They were free. But abuse of power is why you are currently paying all the fucking tuition and fees and everything else that you're paying. So what you learn out of that is that systems, right? Systems of power, systems with power dynamics tend to function in very similar ways. So you can actually use systems as its own theoretical framework to think about the power dynamics of every place that you enter, right? When you go into a store, right, like a major store, think about going into Walmart, right? What is the power dynamic in there for the employees? Well, they got employees, right? They got supervisors, right? They probably got shift managers. They have somebody else they have to report to, right? The leads, district leads, right? And then the people who are actually, you know, getting a whole lot of money for owning the entire corporation, right? The people at the bottom tend to be the least supported, the least paid, all of that. The people at the top who probably don't even shop at any Walmarts. Because why would they? They're rich, bitch.
Was being racist, but. kind
If he
of
wasn't,
like
say
it.
he was being racist.
He was definitely being racist.
Oh, okay. Well, then say
Come on
that.
now. Out of all the